Hello and welcome to the Gaggle Bubble Challenge, and if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, Donald Trump has completed naming of the cabinet, and he's also named a number of people onto his national security staff. Um, and what one can already see that by and large, it's a very standard issue, a Republican administration that's taking shape. One should say right away, before we forget, that on the National Security Council will be Dr. Sebastian Gorka, who will be is the special advisor to the president on counterterrorism, a subject that he knows nothing about.
Yeah, I was going to, you after you said the word specialist, I wanted to interrupt, and I did. Specializing in what?
Specializing in what? But Gorka was, of course, a complete and utter fraud. I mean, he's not an expert on anything. He presents himself as an America firster, but as we've discussed before, America first with people like that transmutes into America just goes around blowing people up all over the world and not caring too much about the consequences, and that means America first. America first, second, third, and last. With no one else's life means anything. That's Sebastian Gorka. And one has to then say that by and large, when you look at his national security team, it's much worse than his initial national security team in 2017, because back then he hires Michael Flynn as his national security advisor. And then as Secretary of State, he had Rex Tillerson with a background in the energy industry and was therefore not a member of the Washington swamp. Gorka was in, but Gorka only got in because he was riding the coattails of Steve Bannon. The moment Trump and Bannon had a falling out, Gorka was out the door. I mean, he was just there as kind of a sidekick to Bannon. Now Gorka is in by himself. Gorka called Tucker Carlson a traitor for going to Moscow to interview President Putin, calling him just a traitor, So that's him. And then we think, well, where's the MAGA contingent
Thank
here?
you, George. Thank you for the long introduction for my question. Where is the MAGA in all of this?
Exactly. The MAGA.
Look, Matt Gaetz gone.
Exactly. Matt Gaetz is gone. And in a particularly nasty way, because essentially Matt Gaetz is now being humiliated. He's now going to take up his seat in Congress. That's now he's made that clear. He's not going to take it up. He's essentially, he only survived 8 days. That's a humiliation. So
it's a humiliation for Trump.
It's a humiliation for Trump, certainly. But then you have to ask, well, where are the people who would be contrary voices? Somebody who's not Marco Rubio and Mike Waltz. Where's somebody like McGregor, Colonel McGregor? Where's
desperately seeking the contrarian view?
Exactly. And this is really the point that people say, oh yeah, but Trump is the one who's going to make these decisions. That's true. Trump is the one who makes the decisions. But where is the view of those who would be urging another course of action? I mean, there's no Tucker Carlson here. I mean, he's not in the administration. Rick Grenell. I mean, is not the ideal person, but at least he does have a slightly contrary view on policy.
How about having a special advisor, Chaz Friedman?
Mm-hmm.
Have him on call, on speed dial. I mean, he's an elderly man, but I watch interviews with him. He's on top of his game. That guy is sharp. I mean, he's in his 80s, obviously. Okay. Why can't we have him as a special advisor? Be the spoiler in the party. Be the party pooper and say,
right.
Hey, have you thought about this?
Right.
We have none of that. We have no pushback.
There's no pushback.
And Pete
Hegseth.
He's going to be, huh? What's he going to do?
So really, I mean, it was striking that Trump didn't do anything to fight back on behalf of Gates. He essentially let Gates fall by the wayside. He didn't want to expend any political capital on trying to defend him. So now most of the team will be quite acceptable to Washington, with the
Yeah.
exception of Tulsi Gabbard, Robert Kennedy Jr., and Pete Hegseth.
Well,
Now,
I mean, okay, Pete Hegg said that they'll let him pass.
I
Okay.
think so too. I think
I,
so.
I mean, I've said traditionally, when the Republicans have the sway, that meaning the votes in the Senate, they traditionally say if that's what the president wants, let him have it. Okay, that tradition seems to be dead in the water, and they'll give him not all of them. With now the tradition, at least as we speak right now, will give him one.
Well, that's the thing. You see,
We'll give him
Hegseth,
one.
exactly. Hegseth, he has all the views there's nothing about his views that the Senate would find obnoxious or the media would find obnoxious. The issue with Hegseth ultimately is his personal life. But I looked a little bit into this accusation from this woman. I think it's pretty thin. I think he's going to ride this one out because the case that this woman is making against them, I think, is very implausible. And if it becomes that basically he said she said, I think he gets the benefit of the doubt. If somebody else comes out of the woodwork with a similar accusation, then maybe it's different. But if that's all there is about his personal life, then I think that it's not going to be enough to
Well,
derail
I
him.
think all the more so, just like I said, they have to give him something to chew. I have to give
Yeah.
Trump something. So, okay, we'll give you him. Okay.
Yeah, I think
I mean,
so.
somebody that I don't know what he's qualified to do anything in life. I mean,
No,
just to kind of spout off,
no,
you
no.
know,
He's a typical
that's
Fox
why we
News.
have network TV is just
Right.
to spout off. I mean, no qualifications really necessary.
No, no. But you say, but the issue that people does bring up about, oh, he has no qualifications to run the Pentagon, which of course is true. On the other hand, no one ever holds that against anyone else. I mean, what was Pete Buttigieg's qualifications to be Secretary of Transportation? I mean, what does he know about
He met his
transportation?
husband at a train station.
Exactly. Or Jennifer Granholm to be Secretary of Energy. I mean, what does she know about energy? I'm clearly anything. She it was a disaster whenever she testified on the Hill because she obviously didn't know anything about energy. So that's always a
Well, I
silly
mean,
argument.
to be fair, George, I mean, DOD is a kind of a big deal. It's got the biggest budget and all that. And
It's a huge budget. But on the other hand, I mean, he doesn't know much about it, and you say, yeah, well, I don't know much about it. I'm going to rely on expert advice. I mean, what do people normally do when they take over a huge bureaucracy? Well, I'm going to rely on expert advice.
well,
It
I
was a
mean, but
strange look. I'm not defending the appointment. I just think that
yeah. I get it. I mean, the thing is that I don't think Donald Trump is going to get. I mean, at least not from Pete. He's not going to get any kind of pushback one way or another. I mean, the Joint Chief Staff that they might, try to get the president's ear. I mean, it's going to be a weird situation. Okay.
right,
And again, we have to stress. I mean, the Secretary of Defense is a civilian running a military
right.
organization at the pleasure of the president. So it's a big deal, but let's not overdo it. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
No, I think so. And I think, yeah, I agree. I think he is going to make it because at the moment I don't see enough. I mean, unless of course there are this hardcore of Republicans who hate Trump so much that they're just going to vote against his nominees. I mean, I'm thinking like Murkowski, McConnell. That's already two. I think he can only afford to lose four.
Hmm.
So that's two that's he's lost. So then he has to
Well,
basically lose
maybe
four.
it's good. Going back to the last time we talked. I mean, I'm kind of hedging a little bit, but the last time we talked, we agreed that all of them will be shot down.
I think so too. Hexa, I think it's touch and go which way he's going to go. I think Tulsi Gabbard will be shot down,
Yeah.
and I think Bobby Jr. will be shot down.
I do too. That's why George and I were in agreement before the election result that the best Bobby Kennedy could get is a blue ribbon
Right.
commission, and I think
Right.
that's what he's going to get.
It's probably what it is. That's right.
No, I mean, this is the sign of the times. I mean, he's a MAGA favorite. Go figure, everyone.
That's right.
This is 2024. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a MAGA favorite.
But
We
that's
are. Here we
it's
are.
true. It's true. But that's because he does have these kind of populist
Yeah.
ideas quite against corporations, against big pharma, against big agriculture, against big food processing. And I think MAGA really kind of likes it. That hey, this is where he's speaking for us. Those ideas used to be found on the left. But they've kind of moved on the right. The left seems to be entirely corporatist. They love the
I
big
think
corporations.
I thought I saw Robert F. Jr. Having lunch with Ralph Nader yesterday.
Yeah, is that right?
Joke,
Oh, Jeff.
joke.
Okay, okay, right.
But that's what it's get that's birds of a feather. I mean they probably have a lot in common.
That's right. Well, but
This
that's
is
also
2024, everyone.
that's right. But that's the thing. So I think he'd be MAGA. You say he's MAGA, even though he used to be on a Democrat. And then Tulsi Gabbard also MAGA in a kind of suspicion and hostility towards the intelligence services. But now you go to the Senate, who are almost all corporatists, and this is where they get their money from, and revere the intelligence services. Whoa, this is what the CIA tells us. And I think that because the Democrats hate both of them so much that they see them as turncoats, that every single one is going to vote against them. So it's going to be difficult. They're gonna go after Tulsi and say, "Hey, you're a defender of Saddam. Hey, you're repeating Putin talking points." This is the Republicans. This is
Yeah, but okay.
Republicans are going to attack her
This,
for that.
this is all obvious. But what is not obvious, and we've already asked the question, where the hell is Trump in all of this?
Right. Well,
I mean, because look, they don't like Tulsi Gabbard, okay? But it's his pick. And why isn't he on the phone doing the Johnson treatment and just saying, I just won the most unexpected election in American presidential politics, okay? I only lost New Jersey by 10 points.
5 points, within 5 points in New Jersey. Yeah.
Yeah, what business is it of yours to get in my way? That's the Johnson stuff,
Well,
okay?
but then every president, look, basically, if you're a president, you say, "Hey, I am the elected leader.
And I lead
ran
the
for
party.
office.
I lead the party, not you.
I'm the leader of the party. I ran for office. I promised certain things to voters, and now I intend to implement my program." Now, when you watch the talking heads on television, they never seem to grasp this. They seem to think that somehow Trump needs to be contained. Trump needs guardrails. Trump doesn't have the right to pick his team because he has to respect expertise. The experts have to tell him what he
And this is the
needs to do.
experts brought us this mess in the first place.
Exactly, but this is their mentality. I mean, it's like, hey, we the expert, this professional experts, we get to decide, what gets done, and so they say, well, do we have to control Trump? So, but you're right. Where is Trump on this? And then ultimately, where is Trump on what's going on in Ukraine, where Biden is not only escalating, but the media are reporting that he intends to continue escalating. I mean, he's already writing off the debt, the Ukraine debt. He just simply unilaterally just writes off a debt. Well, how do you get to do that? How does the president just simply get to write off another country's debt? And so where's Trump on this? I mean, he's the one who's just won an election.
Well,
Particularly,
it's actually worse. It's actually worse than that because there are presumed people in Trump's orbit, and there are MAGA supporters. What I'm just saying, in the Trump universe, how close you get to the sun is open to question here. But I mean, it's pretty vast. And we have a wide array of what Trump might do, could do, should do. I mean, there's no solid message coming in. Where's the messaging coming from the transition team? Now, we have to, under American law, this archaic, arcane, ridiculous law called the Logan Act, which private individuals do not have the right to negotiate on part of the U.S. government. We've never been confronted with a president-elect. I mean, that's kind of a big deal, okay?
Right.
But because of social media today, we could get an idea of what Trump actually thinks without addressing it to the Russians as it were a
Right.
negotiation.
I mean, first of all, I would say, make my day. Do it. Try and prosecute an incoming president under the Logan Act. Just do it. It's never succeeded. No one has ever been successfully prosecuted under the Logan Act, but at least of all, a president who has just won a massive win. So, first of all, do that. But even if you're not going to do that, a president has the First Amendment right to speak out and say this is a terrible policy that you are pursuing, and you are really detrimental to the interests of the country. He could indeed advocate, as we advocated the other day, which is you could advocate the impeachment of the incumbent president because he's leading the country to a catastrophe. He can do all of that. I don't think he can just get away with saying nothing. I mean, this is a serious business that's going on now, and he can't just get away with saying nothing.
We talked about this on this is Sunday, the 24th of November. George and I talked about this on November 22nd. And there are time zone problems and all that, but I still haven't heard anything.
Right.
I mean, the man partly ran on this.
Yes. Right. And that's why, I tend to be rather pessimistic, really, about Trump. I just think, given the pattern we saw from his first term, is he talks a good game during elections. He's figured out where the public is, but once he's in, and he doesn't really need the MAGA base, he just reverts to the mean, which and that's why he selected this team, which is not a MAGA team. And that's why all the things that he promised in 2016, he's going to improve relations with Russia, he's going to pull troops out from Syria, pull them out from Afghanistan, and then then he talked about Korea and everything. So we're sort of witnessing something very similar today. You made all these promises, and now you've put together essentially a wartime administration. These are all hawks. These are all wartime hawks, interventionists, neocons. There's no voice there that's urging peace.
Marco Rubio is the toast of Washington, D.C.
Yes.
Oh man, everybody can't wait to shake his hand and pat him on the back. Everybody loves little Marco right now. Okay. Right. Which, of course, contrary to what I thought would have been the case, is that what does Marco Rubio want? Does he want peace and security in the world? Does he want, an equitable end to the conflicts in Ukraine and Palestine? No, he's running for president of the United States, right. And he hasn't even been confirmed yet.
Right.
And what does he want to do? Does he want to please Trump? No, he wants to stab J.D. Vance in the back. That's all that's going on here.
That's right. And indeed, where's J.D. Vance in all of this? I mean, Vance has been much more explicit than Trump about what he thinks should happen in Ukraine. All of these plans that we talked about, the possible Trump peace plan for Ukraine, we kind of only thought about that simply because that was what J.D. Vance articulated. So, J.D. Vance was probably speaking on behalf of Trump. Trump has never really spelled out what kind of a plan he has in mind. So we will just be making assumptions on that basis. But Vance hasn't said anything either. We had a tweet out from Don Jr., but that's just nothing. You can just say that's a sop. Hey, throw the MAGA base something, so to keep them happy. So we don't take that seriously. He's not a member of the administration. That's just hey, I'm just shooting my mouth off. but nothing from J.D. Vance. So these are not good signs. And again, going back to Dr. Sebastian Gorka, why would anyone who's a peace president who intends to bring conflicts to an end, why would you hire somebody like Dr. Sebastian Gorka?
Who whispered in his ear?
Right.
We just don't know these things here. One of the fundamental questions that George and I have asked during the entire Trump campaign, and then his stunning victory, which is I still wrapping my head around it. Okay, we should talk to Thomas Frank about that one. Okay, and I think he has some good ideas. But the question is, George, what has he learned from his first administration? And I don't see anything that he has. I just haven't. Okay. And I'm not trying to be a naysayer. I am not a big Trump supporter. I'm not his booster. I'm not. I have never been. But one of the things that George and I talk about a lot on this podcast is I always look at the quality and effectiveness of leadership. That's what leaders, I'm interested in how leaders act and achieve their goals. We're going to do after this, we're going to do a video on Angela Merkel. Okay. There's another case study in the lack of leadership or the inability of it. And this is what we're seeing. I mean, I don't know. After such a stunning victory, what I would do, instead of these jackass, stupid things on Twitter, do you agree or disagree? Do you like this person? No, the campaign is over. The election is over. You are the president-elect. What are you thinking about? How do you see the lay of the land? And what are you going to do? You got, George has said this repeatedly, almost by now the election is like passé. Why didn't you use your big momentum and move it forward and basically crowd out these lame duck people? He hasn't.
He hasn't done it.
It's a void. It's a void. And people are taking advantage of it.
Well, that's right. So suddenly Biden, who has been humiliated, first by being pushed out from the Democratic Party nomination, and then his anointed candidate getting a drubbing, Biden is now he's running things. And the media reporting about, well, Biden intends to do this and Biden intends to do that, and that's the Biden plan. There shouldn't be any kind of a Biden plan. He should basically be planning his exit, planning his, packing his cases. Why does he get to direct policy on something so fundamental as Ukraine, get direct policy, leading to a serious confrontation with another nuclear superpower? And Trump does not, the man who won an election has nothing to say on it. It's like he always becomes a kind of almost an accessory. He's a marginal figure.
Well, I mean,
he's nowhere.
It begs the question, actually, is that the goal was not to be president again. The goal was to win the election. Yep. You see the difference? That's what it looks like to me.
Right.
It was, it was a pride thing. It was a legacy thing. I actually won in 2020. I just want to prove to everyone.
Right.
And that, that's it. It's as if, you've climaxed.
Right.
Before you even.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. And that's why it seems, now that he's won, he doesn't know what am I going to do. So he starts putting together essentially a standard issue Republican administration, the kind of administration that would have been put together by George W. Bush. And anyway, look, this guy he's hired to be the deputy national security advisor, Alex Wong, was the foreign policy advisor to Mitt Romney in 2012. So you've now got this person. He also worked in the Bush administration. He did work in the Trump administration, but he's basically somebody who just works in every single Republican administration. Typical, he's just, again, a member of the sort of managerial elite. I mean, this is the person you have. There were people within that America First movement, America First Policy Institute, that he could have hired. Like somebody like Michael Anton, he could have hired as deputy national security advisor. Instead, he went for this Alex Wong, who worked for Mitt Romney. So and then of
Where's
course
Douglas McGregor?
where exactly where as McGregor, and then if you're going to hire people from the House of Congress, if you'd given a job to Marjorie Taylor Greene, I said, okay, good. Now that's a voice for MAGA. She said, not one penny for Ukraine. So if you're going to have that voice in there, then I could say, okay, well, that'll be interesting. What's going to happen in those meetings? But that isn't there. And of course, all the other picks are very, very routine. I mean, the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, who's a hedge fund manager. I think it's the first time ever we've had a hedge fund manager who's Treasury Secretary. It just seems a strange way to go from a hedge fund to managing the finances of a nation. And he had worked for many years for Soros's Capital Fund, and so that again, not exactly America first, not exactly a populist.
Well, it sounds like Wall Street first to
It's
me.
Wall Street, and again, he could have hired someone like Robert Lighthizer, who was his trade representative in the first term, very much a tariff man. He could have said, "Hey, this is after all Trump's signature policy, tariffs." If you hire somebody like that as your Treasury Secretary, in fact, Lighthizer hasn't been appointed to anything. And then he's hired a surgeon general, I can't remember her name, who is a very firm, absolute passionate advocate for masking, for vaccines, for boosters, second, third boosters. I mean, people are just aghast. That's your surgeon general? One of the worst of
Well, I
these
mean, George,
COVID creatures.
again, I think my thesis is correct based on what we know up to this point. The whole point was to win the election.
Yep.
It wasn't to govern.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, it really looks like they hadn't even thought about this.
Right.
This is hodgepodge, the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. I think so. And I think that he, because of that, winning the election, I think he promised things to Bobby Jr. and to Tulsi. They'd come over to him, come over to the party. So he promised them something. That doesn't mean he's going to fight for them. Said, okay, well, I said I'd give you something. I'd given you something, but you're on your own, pal.
I'm not really a betting man, but I don't even think Elon Musk will make it through the first half.
I don't think so either. I don't. I think once he realizes he doesn't have any real input, he's going to get bored.
He's like I'm sorry, he's just like a teenager with a credit card. He's just having a good time. He looks like he's just having a great time. Okay.
Yes,
I mean, good for him. Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not serious.
Yeah.
It's serious stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, if you want to cut the waste, you could just focus your entire time on the Defense Department.
Right.
Elon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah.
You'll
Yeah.
save enormous amounts of money.
Of course there is.
The U.S. government is funding postmodern Mongolian dance, all this stuff. And I'm sure they are, okay? But go for the big bucks, okay?
No, that's right. No, he's not going to do that because if you have Defense Secretary Hegseth, he's going to say, "Hey, you leave my Pentagon budget alone. You'll get one of these." So he's not going to. The Pentagon will resist ferociously any cuts at all.
Well, there was a saying. I guess it went out of. It was still in vogue, and my father was alive. That the U.S. Navy does not recognize the sovereignty of the United States,
Right.
but the Pentagon essentially does not recognize.
Right. So that's it's one of those things. It's interesting. Like the Pentagon puts in its budget claim, and then Congress adds to it. So it's always, it's actually even more. What they get is even more than they'd ask for. So that's the way it works. And if you're going to do anything serious with it, you really need a commitment. A passionate commitment that you're going to really pare down that Pentagon. I wouldn't hire someone like Hegseth for that. Again, there are people who are specialists here and who could do something with that. Hegseth isn't going to do that. That's not. I mean, he'll do that. The women thing and whatever. Probably won't get far with that.
What he's going to do is the culture war within the Pentagon, and I think that's just it. Okay.
right.
I don't think that they're going to let him do anything more than that, you know. I mean, what is our defense posture against blah 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 in this country and that country? And he'll say, "No, I just fired three generals over
Yeah,
trans."
that's right.
That'll be it. You know, I don't want to contradict myself here, and I tend to agree with George. I mean, you know, what does it mean to be qualified? But I mean, with this character, Higgs, he's told us what his focus is. Okay, he wants a muscular,
Right,
aggressive foreign policy, and he's
right.
against wokeism.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Which is again very standard conservative a lot of these neoconservative interventionists, yeah, they don't like all this woke stuff either. It's like, yeah, I don't care for that. I don't want all this trans stuff. So there's nothing unusual about that. I mean, the whole point of America First had been no more of these stupid interventions. We should be pursuing peace and prosperity for the American people, and having these endless wars do neither of those things. But that's not what this team is about, and that's why, and I know, people disagree with me. I don't think, when it comes to Ukraine, that he's going to pursue a peace with Ukraine. People who think, oh, he's going to push Ukraine under the bus, he's going to pull the plug
I
on
know,
Zelensky.
George.
I don't think he's going to do that.
Well, I have to say, without naming names, because I don't need to offend people, but you know, George and I have kind of stood our ground, you know, a little piece of turf here.
Right,
We've resisted the last legism
right,
argument very fiercely, and like I said, very much alone. And I tend to agree with George. Before any money will be cut, there'll be a massive escalation.
yes,
That's what's in the cards.
I think it's
But
in.
everything tells us that,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, exactly,
And the team that he's getting on board tells us that. We don't need
exactly.
we don't need to read the tea leaves. We have to look. Policy is personnel.
Right. No, that's exactly right, and
I'm
that's why.
sorry, personnel is policy. Excuse me.
Right. That's exactly right. And so you have people, like I read an article in Responsible Statecraft. Oh yeah, he's going to, put forward a peace plan, and if Ukraine doesn't play along with him, he's going to cut Ukraine off. No, it's the opposite. I think he will put forward a peace plan. I think, Russia will probably say, well, this bears, further scrutiny. Ukraine will flat out reject it, and Trump will say, oh, it's all Russia's fault. And we
Right.
say again, so we have to then escalate against Russia. That's what he'll do. He said it's not Ukraine's fault; it's all Russia's fault. And then yeah, and then we're off on the same policy. There's no one here that will say, "Hey, I think we should pull the plug on Ukraine." Who among those people is going to say, "Oh, we should pull the plug on Ukraine"? There
Well,
isn't any.
who's the first to do it? Okay, I
Right,
guess that's what this is what these people are. They're all opportunists, and
right,
you know that comes with the territory and with the ambitions of these people here. Trump doesn't have a clue what to do. It's
right,
obvious to everybody. Okay,
right.
and because he has this window, you better get serious about this because you're going to be thrown under the Ukrainian bus. Okay. Again, you win historic election. Okay. You have the people behind you. All right.
Yeah,
What are you doing?
right. No,
It's just not serious.
that's not, it's not serious. And again, we go back, as we always do, to past presidents, namely Richard Nixon. Election night, November, whatever it was, in 1972, and he gives his victory speech, and he says, "Yeah, we won a big win tonight, but a big win only means something if we go do big things with it. If we don't, then it doesn't mean anything." And that's the important thing. Nixon had the vision to say this on election night in his victory speech, that unless you do something with a big win, then it's nothing. It'll be gone. It'll be forgotten within a
Yeah,
few
but see
months.
the advantage that Nixon had over just about everyone else that has run for office, he had 30 years of thinking about it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Exactly.
With ample experience, okay? And he knew every nook and cranny of Washington. He knew everything about everybody, the good things, the dirt. I mean, this was the most prepared person to become president of the United States, probably in history.
Yeah. No, that's exactly. And I think, what you said is right. I mean, with him, it was a kind of thing. He had to prove something. This election was he proved something. Yeah, I won in 2020. That was he wanted to prove, but nothing really beyond that. And I think people wanted to think, oh, he's really planning this. He's got this ideas, and he has this vision and whatever. But that's just projection. I mean, I think people who want to bring the war in Ukraine to an end sort of assume that that's also what Trump is thinking. People who want all these ambitious agendas for America think, well, that's what Trump is thinking. There's no evidence for that.
What he, and I don't fault him, but his goal was to win. Okay, you won, but you won because you want to.
Right.
That's the antithetical.
Exactly.
Nixon was all about. Nixon had a vision for the United States. He had a vision for the world. From Donald Trump, we have a very accurate critique. What's wrong? The critique, yes. And George has already said it, and it's a salient point. He understands what the electorate wants. Okay. We're getting close to halfway here. Okay. But that's not enough. Now, I mean, these picks, it's very blasé for me. The people that George and I would nominally support are going to be shot down. Tulsi's going to get she'll get 16 days.
Absolutely. The knives are sharpening for her, and unless Trump goes in and makes it an absolutely unconditional demand from the Republicans, you have to get her in. And absolutely lays it down on the line for them. She'll be gone. I think she'll also.
George, again, if we can compare past presidents, Lyndon Johnson, he knew everything about his colleagues in the Senate. Everything. It was his Senate. Okay. And when he became president, he knew exactly what to do and how to deal with his friends and foes in Congress. We saw this in 2017. Who was the conduit from the Trump transition team in Congress? I don't remember. There wasn't one. Okay. It was supposed to be Mike Pence.
Right.
Not a powerful figure. Not a
but that's the thing that. And again, we go back to 2017 because it's very significant. 2017, again, Trump had all the branches of government under his control. Both houses of Congress and the White House is under the control of the Republicans. That's the time to do something. And instead, the Democrats seized on this phony, bogus Russiagate and ran with it. And then ran all the way to winning the midterms in 2018. And of course, first thing you do after winning the midterms is you impeach the president. So that's what the Democrats do. And I think we're going to have something very similar now.
I agree. Trump, your impeachment travails are not over. Not depending on what happens in the midterms, which historically goes against the party in power.
And given how narrow the control of the House is with the Republicans, the Democrats will take it, and then there's just no question. This is this is their mode. They're going to go and impeach, and then that's it. And then you're going to spend the last 2 years of your presidency fighting off impeachment and the constant attacks. So he's got a very small window, and this doesn't look like the team that's going to take advantage of that small window.
It just isn't the team. And we saw from the first administration, he can't do it alone.
No.
Okay. If he can't whip his own Senate, what is there, George?
No, I think that's yeah.
And just to reiterate, he's inheriting some huge headaches, and that will deny him the focus on his domestic agenda, which of course is exactly what the Democrats want.
That's right. That's right.
He won the election, but they want him to have a failed presidency.
That's right. Yeah. And incidentally, I mean, which, before we forget, he still hasn't hired Kash Patel for FBI. What's holding that up? At least that would have been here. That's here's your MAGA candidate to head the FBI. I mean, the FBI has been Trump's, bête
Well, I
noire.
mean, but I mean, that's on a 10-year
But
contract. I
he,
mean,
you can get rid of it. It's not. No, you can.
you can get. I mean, that's the reason why I bring it up because Christopher Wray has a
It's a 10-year deal, but you can fire. I mean, after all, Trump
course,
fired
of course.
Comey. Comey didn't complete his 10 years. So, absolutely, a president can remove the FBI
And he
director.
should.
Is that Ray is no friend of his, to say the least. Ray was terrible.
I think there should be an investigation of the guy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And again, there was a lot of speculation about, in the early, just after Trump won. Oh, Kash Patel is scheduled for FBI director, and then nothing. And now they say, well, it's between Kash Patel and Mike Rogers. Mike Rogers, the worst of the worst, is an absolute, nightmare, and a Russiagator, incidentally. So you're thinking about hiring a Russiagator to head the FBI. What the hell's what's the matter with you? And why not? I mean, Kash Patel has been an absolute loyalist and an absolute anti-Russiagator right from the start. When he worked for Devin Nunes on the House Intelligence Committee, Kash Patel was one of the figures who has done the most on the Hill to expose the Russiagate hoax. And there's no job for him yet. I mean, it's you hire all these people, and there's nothing for Kash Patel.
And you give, some of the choice positions to former Democrats.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I mean, I guess this is a work in progress, everyone. Maybe I shouldn't even use the word progress, but pretty slim pickings at this point here. And this is something we both worried about. Okay.
Right.
Again, I'll ask the question, was this all about just to prove you could win?
Yeah. That's right.
There's a lot more at stake than that, unfortunately. Right. All right, everybody. We're going to keep an eye on this here. Not looking good. This is The Gaggle with Peter and George. We're on Local, so please go to thegaggle.locals.com. This is Sunday. We're doing our Sunday wraps, and then tomorrow at 10 o'clock, that's 6 p.m. my time.
It's not 6. Is it 6 p.m.? Yeah, I think it is 6 p.m. Yeah. You're right.
6 p.m. Well, of course, George, you asked me. Okay.
That's right. I was a little confused, because the time changes. Yeah. Okay.
And then George will be back in flying solo on Tuesday.
So Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. So please join us first tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern time, and then 3 p.m. On Tuesday. In the meantime, think about these ferocious hounds who are getting more and more angry. You can even hear this rage. They said, what the hell's going on with the tip jar? And I'm not gonna, there needs to be drastic changes. So if you have a few bob in your pocket, whip them out, dunk them into the tip jar. They got to calm down. They got to quieten down a little bit. We're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve on the technology, and above all, we'll get calmer dogs. So remember, if you like The Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye-bye.